What if the life you think is ordinary is actually powerful beyond measure? What if the thing you complain about every day is shaping who you are becoming? This is not a story about luck or sudden success. It is a story about perspective. And by the end of it, you may never see your life the same way again. Ethan Miller was an ordinary man living what he believed was an ordinary life. He was 32 years old, worked a routine office job, and lived alone in a small apartment where the walls felt too quiet and the nights felt too long. Nothing about his life looked dramatic. Nothing seemed broken. Yet something inside him felt deeply unsettled. Every morning followed the same pattern. He woke up before sunrise, drank coffee that tasted more like habit than comfort, and sat in traffic while staring at the same red lights. He spent his days looking at a computer screen, counting hours instead of moments. By the time he returned home, he felt drained, even though he couldn't explain why. Then he slept, only to repeat it all again. From the outside, Ethan appeared fine. He paid his bills on time. He followed the rules. He did what was expected of him. But inside, he carried a quiet fear that his life was slipping away unnoticed. He felt like a background character in his own story. Ethan believed he was behind in life. He believed that everyone else had figured something out that he had somehow missed. He believed that the best parts of life had already passed him by. Every night, he scrolled through his phone, seeing images of people celebrating achievements and milestones. Each image felt like proof that he was failing at something he couldn't name. I should be further by now, he told himself. I wasted too much time. Those thoughts followed him everywhere. At work, they stole his focus. At home, they stole his peace. Even during moments that should have felt calm, his mind was loud with regret and comparison. One evening, after an especially exhausting day, Ethan sat on the floor of his apartment with the lights turned off, the silence pressed against him. He leaned his back against the wall and whispered into the empty room, "Is this all there is?" He didn't expect an answer, but something inside him hoped for one. The turning point came on a day that felt no different from the rest. Ethan was walking home, lost in thought, when he noticed an elderly man sitting on a park bench. The man was feeding birds, his movements slow and deliberate, as if he wasn't rushing anywhere at all. There was a calm around him that felt rare, almost unreal. Without knowing why, Ethan stopped and sat on the bench beside him. They didn't speak at first. The sound of wings and distant footsteps filled the space between them. For the first time in days, Ethan wasn't thinking about his schedule or his worries. He was simply there. Then the man spoke softly. "You look like someone who is racing, but doesn't know where." Ethan let out a small, tired laugh. "I feel like I'm losing the race." The man smiled gently. "That's because you think life is a race." Ethan turned toward him. "Isn't it?" The man reached down, picked up a small stone from the ground, and placed it in Ethan's hand. "Hold this," he said. Ethan closed his fingers around it, confused. "Now imagine this stone is today," the man continued. "Not yesterday, not tomorrow, just today." Ethan looked at the stone resting in his palm. "Most people drop today," the man said. "Their hands are full of regrets from yesterday and worries about tomorrow. They never notice what they're holding." Something shifted inside Ethan. The words felt simple, yet they struck deeply. The man slowly stood up. "One day," he said, "you'll realize your life didn't need to change. Only the way you were looking at it did." And with that, he walked away, leaving Ethan alone on the bench with a stone in his hand and a heavy thought in his mind. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He kept replaying the moment over and over. "You're holding today." The words echoed in his thoughts. He realized how rarely he was truly present. His mind was always somewhere else, criticizing the past or fearing the future. For the first time in years, he noticed small things around him. The quiet safety of his home. The fact that his body was healthy enough to carry him through each day. The opportunities he had ignored because they didn't guarantee success. Ethan realized something that was both painful and freeing. He wasn't stuck. He was waiting for confidence, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for permission. His biggest prison wasn't his job, his age, or his past. It was the way he saw himself. The next morning, Ethan made a small decision. Not a dramatic one. Not a decision that would impress anyone. He decided to fully show up to his life. At work, instead of rushing through tasks, he focused on learning something new. On his commute, instead of scrolling through his phone, he paid attention to the world outside his window. At night, instead of criticizing himself, he wrote down one thing he did well that day. At first, it felt meaningless. Nothing changed overnight. He still had the same job, the same apartment, the same responsibilities. And quietly, without fanfare, something inside him began to shift. He felt present. He felt capable. He felt more connected to his own life. Ethan discovered that motivation doesn't arrive before action. It follows it. Confidence doesn't come from waiting. It comes from showing up even when you don't feel ready. Weeks passed, then months. Ethan started exploring interests he once dismissed, not because they promised success, but because they made him curious again. He stopped measuring his life against others and started measuring it against who he was yesterday. Some days were still hard. Doubt didn't disappear completely, but it no longer controlled him. One evening, Ethan returned to the park, hoping to see the elderly man again. The bench was empty. The birds were gone. But Ethan smiled anyway. He finally understood what had been missing all along. Life isn't waiting to punish you for being late. It isn't judging you for moving slowly. It isn't comparing you to anyone else. Life responds to attention. The moment you respect your days begin to respect you back. Years later, Ethan's life was still simple, but it was no longer small. He smiled more. He worried less. He trusted himself. And whenever he felt overwhelmed, he remembered the weight of that small stone in his hand. Today, because the truth is this, your life doesn't change when everything becomes perfect. It changes when you decide that this moment matters. You don't need a new identity. You don't need permission. You don't need to be ready. You just need to stop dropping today. Because the story that will change how you see your life is not somewhere in the future. It is the one you are living right now. If you choose to stop letting it pass unnoticed,